Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Charles Sturt University's 2025 Virtual Information Night. We're so excited to have you with us for this session on psychology. My name's Lily, and I'm joined today by our academics from our School of Psychology, Danielle Sulovkovsky and Joyce Vroman. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting today, and I'm located on Wiradjuri and would like to acknowledge the Ngunnawal, Gundungurra and Biripi peoples of Australia, the traditional custodians of the land where Charles Sturt University campus is located. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some housekeeping rules. Add questions at any time via the Q&A panel, which is down the bottom in the Zoom style, and these will be answered at the end in our Q&A panel. The last 10 minutes will be dedicated to answering these questions, and if you don't get to your question, we will send you a follow-up email after the event. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Associate Head of School of Psychology, Dr. Danielle Sulovkovsky, and Senior Lecturer and Undergraduate Course Director in Psychology, Dr. Joyce Vroman.
Hi everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day and a wonderful evening. Welcome to this information session on studying psychology online. So I'll just begin with emphasising some of the benefits of being able to study online. So you really will be able to fit learning around your life. You can study from wherever you want, whenever you want. All of the support that we provide is asynchronous, so you can leave us messages and we will reply, and you can read the replies in your own time when you're ready. All of the psychology courses that we offer are offered 100% online, which means that you don't have to worry about commuting, you don't need to worry about times and places and things like that. So you can also, of course, enroll part-time, which allows you to fit part-time study around your current work or family commitments or anything that you have like that going on in the rest of your life. The material is all available to you online at your fingertips when you're ready, so you can replay recorded lectures, which also allows you to pause and take notes and rewind and listen again. So everything can be done at your own pace. And we really do try very hard to make this accessible to as many people as possible. So just before I dive into the wonderful world of studying psychology, I do also just want to make some comments about the study link that we offer here at Charles Sturt. So if it has been a little while since you've done any study, if you haven't done university study before and you want to brush up on some of your math skills or literacy skills or even digital skills, because of course, especially with online study, that there is a certain amount of digital literacy that you'll require, then the study link program might be something that you want to take a look at. It's really helpful. So all of the courses are short, they're free, they're online and they're self-paced. There's over 30 that you can choose from, and they're focused around things like prepping you for uni, especially if this isn't something that you've done before. You can get a head start on the systems that we use and our tools and our resources. We also offer specific training in academic skills, so thinking like essay writing, research report writing, critical thinking, all of those types of things that you either might want to develop your skills on a little bit, or even might just want to build your confidence back up so that you feel ready to start on your university journey. So what you should do if you think these might be helpful is you can go and you can visit the Study Link website and you can have a browse of the short courses that are available, and you can potentially think about enrolling in some of those for 2026. And it's really important to remember that you don't need to be a Charles Sturt student to be able to do these. So you can go and have a look, and you can have a look. They're offered on a really flexible timetable, so you can pick a start time that suits you, and you don't have to be a Charles Sturt student. So you don't need to wait. If you are thinking about coming and joining us as a student next year, you don't need to wait for that to happen to get a jump on the Study Link courses. Okay, so now let's focus down on psychology, which is the reason or why we're here. So why might you want to study psychology at Charles Sturt? So if you have a look at the Good Universities Guide, which is a place that offers a lot of information about different courses offered in Australian universities, and it also offers ratings and rankings by a large number of students. And in New South Wales, Charles Sturt is ranked on that website #1 in psychology for undergraduate skills development in New South Wales, and also #1 in New South Wales for psychology undergraduate teaching quality, which of course is something we're really proud of in our school. And in Australia, we're ranked #2 for psychology undergraduates who are able then to go on and get jobs. So 81% of our grads go on to get full-time jobs within 4 months of graduating. So we're really proud of our track record of quality skills development, quality teaching, and then giving students the qualifications and the experience they need to go out into the real world and get jobs shortly after graduation. So why might you want to study psychology? So psychology is the scientific study of human behaviour and includes animal behaviour as well, in fact, in order to help you better understand all facets of the brain and the mind. So the subject matter of psychology is really everything that people do and everything that people think, and how the way we think then determines what we do. Career areas vary. Some psychologists do study human behaviour through research, like I do and other academics do. Other psychologists will go and work within the profession of psychology. And then we have a whole host of career options outside of that as well. And we'll get to those a little bit later in the presentation. So in terms of the discipline of psychology, what is it that psychologists are interested in? So most people will have some understanding of psychology from a kind of counselling perspective and helping people with mental health. And that certainly is one part of psychology, but the understanding and the study of human behaviour is much, much broader than that. So one of the founding areas of psychology was the study of perception. So how we actually see the world and how we hear and how we turn the information that comes in through our eyes and our ears into this really rich representation of the world that we live in. And that's one of those types of research questions. The study of perception is actually where the discipline of psychology began not quite a couple hundred years ago, I guess. And psychologists are also very focused on understanding cognition, which is what you would think of as just thinking, how we make decisions, how we weigh up different alternatives, how we process the information that we get from the world, what we remember, what we find it tricky to remember, and what we find it tricky to understand. Psychologists also focus their research on social interactions. So in social psychology, we're interested in how the behaviour of other people impacts the behaviour of a particular person, and how group dynamics will influence the way an individual person behaves, and how organisational dynamics can influence the way an individual person behaves. So that's a huge part of the study of psychology as well. And psychologists are also really focused not just on how people generally behave, but there's also a huge focus on individual differences between people and personality. So not just what people might generally do, but why do different people do different things, and how do we explain what makes this particular person behave in this way while someone else might behave in the same scenario in quite a different way. So we do study individual differences in behaviour and how we can understand why people behave in ways that are not the same and not uniform across all individuals. And another aspect, this is only some examples, this is certainly not the limit of the breadth of psychology. Another aspect of psychology that is really interesting is what's called human factors research. And human factors research often sits at the interface of human behaviour and some sort of technology. So people who are interested in how human behavioural tendencies can make it difficult or easy for hackers to get into computer systems and things like that. That's called human factors research. So understanding that the human factor in technology and the human factor in processes and procedures and systems. That's also a big part of research and interest and study in psychology. So there is a lot to the discipline psychology, and I suspect it's much broader than what you may think of when you hear the word. Very, very interesting. Now, moving away from why you might find psychology interesting, what might it offer you as as a career pathway if you think about studying it. So in terms of your future job prospects, psychology is sort of in the moment considered to be in the top 10% of all careers in terms of job prospects and growth. It's very much a growing industry. Mental health is a big part of that. So, you know, there's a lot of research articles and news articles and public narrative about mental health, and particularly mental health of young people at the moment. And that really is increasing the demand for psychologists and for other professions related to psychology. In terms of professional psychologists, there's a very low unemployment rate. The psychology associated salaries with this kind of work is typically very good. The vacancy level for psychologists in Australia is therefore very high, very high in that, not the unemployment rate, but the vacancy rate, as in there are a lot of people who need psychologists and are waiting for psychologists. And this is especially true in regional and rural areas. So like most of the allied health professions, psychology is really in demand, as you know, to some extent in the capital cities, but really once you get outside the capital cities, there's huge demand in the regions for psychologists and people who can provide any sort of support in the mental health space. So if you want to come to Charles Sturt to study psychology, there's a few different pathways that you can take to get in and a couple of different courses that you can study. So at the moment, we offer two main undergraduate courses in psychology. The first of these on the left there is the Bachelor of Social Science, which is a 3 years full-time course. And on the right is the Bachelor of Psychology with Honours, and that's a 4-year full-time course. And these two courses both actually lead into a 4th year. So if we just bring up this diagram, you can have a look. If you just focus on the little clusters of bubbles at the moment, you can see that the cluster for the Bachelor of Social Science Psychology and the cluster for the Bachelor of Psychology Honours, that's the same. So we've got 13 core psychology subjects. We have 6 subjects that can make up a minor, 4 subjects additional that can be chosen from a group of electives, and we have at the moment a core sociology subject that we ask students to do as well. And so in both cases, this counts for the first 3 years of the degree. Now, in the Bachelor of Psychology, because that is a 4-year degree, there is a 4th year, and in that 4th year, that's those 2 little bubbles down the bottom. In the 4th year, you will do a research dissertation, and that's split into 2 research dissertation subjects, but it's one dissertation that you undertake, and that involves undertaking a research project, which you then will collect some data, you'll analyse that data, and you'll write up a research report. And in addition to executing a research project in 4th year, there is also four coursework subjects that you'll complete in 4th year as well. Now, if you complete the Bachelor of Social Science Psychology, which is the 3-year degree, it provides you with, provided that your performance is solid and sound, and you meet the criteria, then that allows you to transfer into a 4th year. So irrespective of whether you might begin in the Bachelor of Social Science or whether you begin directly in the Bachelor of Psychology, both of these provide pathways into a 4th year of study in psychology. And that 4th year of study is really it's quite important if you want to go on in the profession of psychology and become a registered professional psych, or indeed if you want to go into the research stream and go on to higher degree by research. But I'll talk about both of those in just a moment as well. So both of the Bachelor of Science and the Bachelor of Social Science and the Bachelor of Psychology, they have entry requirements that not everybody is able to meet, especially if you haven't finished high school relatively recently and have the appropriate ATAR requirements. So what we also offer are a couple of other courses in psychology, and the Diploma in Psychological Studies is the first one of these. And these are standalone qualifications in psychology, but they also provide pathways for entry into those bachelor programs. So the Diploma of Psychological Studies, this will be a 2-year part-time course, and you can see the entry requirements that are listed there. So you need to be aged 18 or above in the commencing year of study. You need to have completed Year 10. and have work experience that demonstrates the development of literacy and numeracy and entry-level professional skills, or have a minimum ATAR requirement, or have completed some sort of tertiary study. So that would include things like a Certificate 3 in some sort of discipline. And what this course does is it provides you with a pathway to the Bachelor of Social Science Psychology, and this would then be a desirable option for applicants who don't meet the entry requirements into that bachelor course. So if a bachelor course in psychology is what you want to do because you want to go on to the 4th year of study and ultimately go on to become a psychologist, then this diploma in psychological studies provides you with a pathway to do that. And it's a 2-year part-time course that allows you to transition into the Bachelor of Social Science Psychology. The second option that we have is an undergraduate certificate in psychological studies. You can see that this one is now just a 1-year part-time course, and the entry criteria for this one is similar but just a little bit different to the one for the diploma. So again, you need to be 18 or above and have completed either a high school certificate or equivalent, or a AQF certificate 3 or higher, including studied at a TAFE or registered training organisation or equivalent that can issue those certificates. Or you could have completed a tertiary preparation certificate or a bridging program studied at a TAFE or another qualifying organisation. You can also qualify for entry into the undergraduate certificate if you have work experience of at least 2 years full-time equivalence within the same industry as the course profile, and you would have to provide evidence of this via your resume. And there is another option again, you consider special tertiary admissions test. And just like the diploma, this undergraduate certificate provides a pathway to the Bachelor of Social Science Psychology. So again, if you don't meet the requirements for direct entry into the Bachelor of Social Science Psychology, we have 2 other options, a diploma and an undergraduate certificate, which have more flexible entry requirements. And if you can meet those, you can get into one of these courses, and provided that you are successfully able to meet the course requirements, these then open up a pathway for you into the full Bachelor of Social Science, which then leads on to the further study and ultimately registration as a psychologist, if that's the pathway that you end up following. So should you choose, for example, to graduate with a 3-year degree and not take on that extra 4th year of study, if you graduated with a 3-year degree, then there's a large number of health and human services sectors that you would be highly employable and highly desirable. So things like health and social welfare, social and market research, any human services profession, mental health, disability and ageing services and support services, juvenile justice, immigration and refugee support services. There's also opportunities in business with human resource management, training, marketing, and also in the corporate world, consulting, market research companies. And then there's many opportunities, I should say, in both NGOs, non-government organisations, and in government departments and agencies. So even with just a 3-year psychology degree, without going on to do the fourth year, the honours year, there are a lot of opportunities that open up for you in terms of places where you may go and develop and have your career. If you do decide to go on and study a 4-year psychology degree, so you decide to persist and do that 4th year, this sets you up for sort of one of 2 pathways. One of those is entry into the professional world of registered psychologists, and there are a large number of professional disciplines that you might specialise in as a registered psychologist. So this could include sport and exercise psychology, clinical psychology, clinical neuropsychology. You could be a community psychologist, a counselling psychologist, a forensic psychologist. So within the world of professional psychology, should you go on to get a 4th year degree, that opens you up to become qualified as one of these, or there's more than just these, but to be qualified as a professional registered psychologist. So to do that, you undertake master's research after your 4-year degree, so 5th year and 6-year study. An alternative option once you've done the 4th year degree is, instead of progressing down the professional master's route into getting those qualifications, if you're especially interested in doing research and becoming an academic, then you might want to go on and consider doing a PhD and specialising in research training, and then you can go on and getting a PhD doesn't restrict you to the academy. That also opens up lots of opportunities in both the public and the private sector as a research expert as well. So they're the kind of, once you get past the fourth year, that opens you up to further professional training through master's qualifications or further training through the PhD route. And that opens up a world of professional opportunities for you. Okay, so having run through that at what I hope wasn't too much of a lightning pace, I'm just going to hand over now to Bella Smith, who is a current student of ours. Bella, take it away.
Hello everyone, my name is Isabella, or otherwise known as Bella. I am currently in my fourth year of the Bachelor of Psychology. A little bit about me, I am from a rural town called Griffith. I relocated to Bathurst to study on campus for my 3 years. I have just recently, at the start of this year, moved to online as I started working full-time after completing my Bachelor of Social Science. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Excellent. All right. Well, I've introduced Bella to you, and now I'm going to introduce Joyce Vroman to you. I'm going to hand over to Joyce, who will deal with the Q&A. So please take it away.
Great. Thanks so much, Danny. And Bella, wonderful to have you along as well. For those attending, please feel free to if you're happy to be recorded, you can speak out your questions or type them in the chat, and we can answer any questions that you might have. And that might be anything related to the course structure, what can you do with any of the courses that we offer, or maybe you have some questions for Bella potentially, who has always very good information in these sessions about how it is to actually be a student at Charles Sturt University, right? And how is it to study psychology?
Sorry, is that a question there?
It wasn't really a question, but yeah, maybe you can tell us a bit about it. Given that you don't
sorry, I kind of cut out a little bit.
Sorry. I don't think we have any questions in the chat yet. So maybe, yeah, if you're happy, Bella, I think drawing from previous sessions, I think students always really valued hearing a bit about your perspective. So if you would be able to tell us a bit, maybe what has been some good things about your study so far, what do you enjoy?
Yeah, awesome. Well, a little bit about why I chose to study the degree in the first place. I guess the whole concept of you don't know what goes on behind closed doors is the thing that's really driven me into studying what I want to do. You know, you see people at school, at work, and at the shops, and you just judge it based off that. But behind closed doors, you don't know those stresses, financial, emotional, things like that going on behind closed doors that can really change and impact a person. So that's always been a massive drive for me on doing psychology and being that support, so that when people go behind those closed doors, it makes just a little bit of a positive difference in their life. So I've definitely driven my degree off that. A little bit also, I am a bit of a crime buff. From as young as I can remember, I was watching Criminal Investigation Australia. I've always been fascinated in why people do what they do. And when I was watching that in primary school, I'd come into my teacher, oh my God, I watched Crime Investigation, this person had this diagnosis and this is his upbringing. And I definitely know in my reports, I got noted that I talk about inappropriate topics for a year 4 student. And mum definitely got questioned, but it's just, I've always been fascinated into, I guess, that whole debate of nature, nurture. And yeah, so that's a little bit about why I chose to study psychology in the first place.
Interesting. Yeah. So crime is really a bit of a passion for you, right?
Yeah, I love crime. I guess like everyone loves the podcast, loves the documentaries. A lot of like what I'm wanting to do with my degree is working in forensics, working with young offenders specifically. I really want to work with their transition from incarceration into society, in that rehabilitation part. Yeah, that's one thing I've always been quite fascinated in, and having that I guess, role with their transition to kind of hopefully prevent them from reoffending. And as Danny said, mental health for young people is a massive issue in society at the moment, and that sometimes it does ultimately lend them into incarceration. So kind of working with them in their transition back into society has been a massive thing for me and why I wanted to do what I wanted to do. But yeah, long story short, yeah, I'm a bit of a crime buff, and I like things like jails and imprisonment and yeah, the whole thing.
Thanks for sharing that, Bella. That's very interesting. If it's okay, there's still no questions in the chat, but I have
Yeah,
another question for you, Bella, in the
awesome.
meantime, if that would be okay.
Go for it.
One thing that we have touched on in previous sessions is the psychology club, the psych club. Would you be able to share a bit with those attending tonight about what the psych club is and kind of what does it offer to students?
Yeah, awesome. So the Psychology Club started about 2 years ago with Miriam Randall as the president, and I started as the vice president. And we started it as a way of, because psychology, it's online and on campus. There was a bit of a disconnection between the two, and so we wanted to do it as a way that you can work with kids and online, people on online, and having that ability for professional development, that interaction with other people and not just the ones you see on campus or the ones you see on the discussion boards, having just that interaction across the different environments. And we do things like on-campus pizza parties, online events with lecturers coming in and talking about the pathway into masters, job opportunities just with the social science. And we just did it as a way to kind of ease the stress, I guess, with studying the psych degree and knowing that there is so many different opportunities and experiences to come along with it. And yeah, with the psych club, we also have hoodies, which is really handy. I know back this winter, I fully use that hoodie. So there's little incentives like that for becoming a member of the psychology club. And for anyone who is wanting to do psychology or is doing psychology in the near future, definitely recommend joining the psychology club, because I know it's given me opportunities to meet people from Brisbane, Perth, people studying overseas, just by having that little community both on campus and online. And yeah, it's like a little family, which has been really, really nice. Yeah.
Great. Thanks so much for that, Bella. And we have a question in the chat as well. So Laura is asking, forensic psychology is a hot topic at the moment with students in high school. Would you know the pathways into this career path post-study? Should they be focusing on something in particular? So I think this is something that we can all three potentially kind of answer. I guess
Yeah.
kind of for forensic psychology, to the best of my knowledge, what you would do is you would go through that 4-year pathway that Danny described, right? So you would do one of the bachelor degrees, and then you would go on to the honors course, and then you would enroll in either a 5th year of study or a 5th and a 6th year of study. So for example, the professional master that we offer, or the clinical master that we offer. And then what happens is that after you complete that, you can register as a registered psychologist with a relevant kind of registration board. And then you would kind of go through supervised practice in clinical practice. And then you can get an area of endorsement, which would in that case be for like in the forensic area, if I'm not mistaken. Danny or Bella, please jump in with any additional kind of information you might have.
I think you're pretty much bang on there in terms of getting your registration as a professional psychologist and then getting the supervised practice to get the endorsement in forensic. And then the other, I guess, as a researcher, I'll always take an opportunity to give research a bit of a boost. Forensic psychology is also a huge area of research as well. So some of the research that I've done is touching on forensic psychology as well. So through the PhD and which the higher degree by research pathway, that will also allow you to potentially develop expertise in forensic psychology and be engaged in research and study and things like that. And there is, of course, lots of cross-fertilisation and cooperation between people who are researching in the space of forensic psychology and the police and the people who are actually, you know, working to solve the crimes and working in the criminal justice space. So I'll just give a little plug to the research pathway in there as well.
Oh, that's great, Danny. Thanks. We have two final questions that I'll just very quickly ask. There are two questions directed at Bella. The first question, Bella, is how do you plan to use your psychology degree? And then
sorry, I just interrupted that. Sorry.
I maybe answer the first one briefly, and then I'll mention the last one.
Yeah, well, I guess, again, working with young offenders, that's where I'm ultimately wanting to take my degree. That's my dream, what I'm working with. Yeah, working with them with their transition back in to society. But I do know masters can be quite tricky to get into. And so with my job currently now, I mentioned briefly that I've gone to part-time study and doing it online. So I work full-time doing behaviour support, and that has been absolutely incredible to be exposed to after my 3-year degree. I wanted to get a little bit of experience before I decide to do my master's, because I know it is a commitment, and I know I was having a bit of a debate on theoretically I'm okay, but practically I may be really bad and I don't know. So I think having that opportunity of behaviour support where I can go down working with the young offenders and working with forensic clients is an opportunity as well, where I don't really need to go into the masters. So I guess the degree is so flexible, and the opportunities that can come from it is crazy. And if you were to ask me when I started, you'd be doing behaviour support, working with people in Dunedoo and Broken Hill and Dubbo, I would have gone, where the hell? Like what? So being able to get exposed to those different opportunities and working with clients and administering assessments and scoring and working with families and quite vulnerable people in the community just with my 3-year degree has been incredible. So long story short, would like to work with young offenders in forensic settings, but still figuring it out. So
that's great, Bella. Thanks for sharing that. That's very interesting. Okay, final question before we wrap everything up. Bella, is there anything that you wish you had known before you started studying psychology?
Ooh, big question. I guess kind of stemming from what I just said, the opportunities. I thought going into high school, oh, I'm going to be a psychologist, and I just sit in a therapy room counseling session and I just have a door of clients and I write reports. That's genuinely what I thought. And I was like, yeah, look, I could do that. But I think being exposed, things like talking to lecturers and having those seminars through the psychology club and getting exposed to those different opportunities that you can do was really, really cool. And yeah, I guess that, you know, even with my job now, getting to see clients, and I'm still figuring out what psychology is also, I think that's been really, really cool. One thing also I would have liked to have known is that there is no placements in the degree. I think, you know, especially being on campus, I was surrounded by people who was doing paramed placements and nursing placements and teaching placements. And, you know, when everyone was like, when are you doing your placement? I'm like, oh, I don't do a placement. Like, what? So I think, yeah, getting to do those opportunities out of uni and actually in society was one thing I, again, struggled a bit. Again, I theoretically I'm okay, but practically I may be bad. And if I'm going to do honours and masters, I want that experience. So I guess that's part of the reason why I did drop to part-time and online and get that job, just so I can get exposed to real life application. But there's so many ways psychology is applied in real life. You can be working at Woolies, you can be a hairdresser, you can be a trade, and you're working with all different walks of life. Even just being a parent, you know, you're working with so many different types of things, and being able to apply that is really cool. But I guess for me, like, I'm 22, I came straight out of high school, so I wanted to get that experience before I did commit to the masters. And yeah, so that's a little bit
Great,
about
Bella.
that. Yeah,
Thanks
so
for
that's what things I
sharing
would
that.
want to
And
know.
great that you kind of have that flexibility of kind of, yes, study and work kind of at the same time, right?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it's
Guys,
really
given
good.
the time, we'll need to wrap it up now. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Danny, I'm not sure whether there's anything else that we need to mention at this point in time, or whether there's any more slides.
No more slides. Just again, a big thank you for everyone for coming along today or tonight, this evening. You can reach out directly to our team via askcsu@edu.au, or the admissions team for further questions or advice. And so you can find the contacts. Hopefully that link will be going into the chat, but it's csu.edu.au/contacts. And with that information, you can sort of work out who in the university you need to get in touch with any questions that you might have. And also explore our on-demand library for videos and resources about studying at Charles Sturt. So thank you all again for joining, and hopefully we will see you back here as students in the not too distant future. Bye.
See you.